drives it to right. This one's on a line to the warning track, to the wall. It's gone. Oh, and Robbie Big Fly has number one. A 3-run home run for Rob Calabrese. In the season of first, the Wisconsin Rapids Rafters are officially your Northwoods League South Division first half champions. Hi everybody, and welcome to Witter Field for Rafters Pregame, a special playoff edition as we finished up our remote here from the ballpark on WFHR 1320 AM. And now from the press box, it is Cooper Perkins and Sam Jellinek, ready to bring you some Rafters baseball at 7:05 p.m. Sammy, how you doing?
Doing fantastic. Playoff baseball is the best kind of baseball.
Oh, it will be a fantastic atmosphere here at the ballpark tonight. Witter Field already one of, if not the best atmosphere in Northwoods League baseball coming into tonight. We're expecting a big crowd. We've seen some tailgating already outside the ballpark. It's sure to be a ruckus environment. But as we get into the action for tonight, the Rafters have drawn the Lakeshore Chinooks as it came down to the very last day of the season to find out who they'd be hosting.
Yeah, Lakeshore had essentially a winner-go-home scenario. They controlled their own destiny as they played the Green Bay Bullfrogs. A win and they're in, a loss and a Rockford win, and Rockford would get in. Lakeshore took care of business, though, at Green Bay as they won 7-4. And Rockford was unfortunately not able to overcome Kalamazoo as they lost 5-6 and 10.
Well, you're 100% right that it didn't end up mattering. Both teams have things going a direction that would put Lakeshore into the playoffs, but they're able to squeak in. They go 7-3 in their last 10 games and finish still 2 games under 500 at 35-37. The Rafters 49-23, the best record in the Northwoods League at large, regardless of division, so they come in as the number 1 overall seed. They're guaranteed home field advantage for both rounds 1 and 2. They would have home field in round 3 as well, regardless of who they'd see from the north, but to get there, it requires 2 one-and-done situations where it's win or go home. For the Rafters, they get the Lakeshore Chinooks tonight, a team that beat Green Bay and has been playing playoff baseball for about the last week trying to squeak in.
Yeah, for Lakeshore, they've been having to play really tight games over the past week just to ensure that they're into the playoffs. And playing a team like that can get a little bit dangerous as they've gotten into this mentality of win or go home.
Well, as we look at the brackets, on the north side, the Mankato Moondogs will travel to the Eau Claire Express at Carson Park. Reese Eddins from Mankato going up against Caleb Bushley, the league's wins leader. We've seen Eau Claire now 4 times. You, Sam, have seen them twice here at Witter Field, and that's a very strong baseball team. They had an excellent first half. They tailed off a little bit in the second half, but they're balanced. They can pitch, they can hit for power, and they can steal bases.
Any team that can split 4 games with the Rafters is a good team in my book. They played fantastic ball against the Rafters, splitting both doubleheaders. And although they trailed off in the second half of the season, they already had that playoff spot locked up, so it really didn't matter too much to them. But going up against Mankato and the league's MVP, Jake Shepsky, it'll be all about how they can control him.
Well, you mentioned Jake Shepsky. He was named the Northwoods League MVP yesterday in the early morning. So the Notre Dame product was a Triple Crown candidate for much of the season. He's tailed off in all 3 categories, but still is top 5 in all 3, as he has a .333 average, 11 home runs, and 54 RBI, an outstanding season for the Mankato Moondog. But what Eau Claire brings to the table that creates some problems for the Moondogs is the fact that they have a couple of switch hitters and allow them some balance. So you can switch back and forth, left-handed tossers, right-handed arms. Eau Claire has a response. They're able to keep their lineup largely balanced, and then they have some quality players in there. You're looking at guys like Alex McKenna and Dalton Varsho. It doesn't matter much. They're able to hit regardless of who's on the bump.
And we saw that here against the Rafters as Chris Cooper, a guy that normally dominates against right-handed hitters, had to try and tame a lineup that was left, right, left, right, left, right. And that is extremely key as some pitchers in the Northwoods League have trouble, especially in their splits. So that is a huge key for Eau Claire and an advantage that they will hold over every team that they face in the playoffs.
I think they're very dangerous. We'll move to the other side of the North Division bracket. Wilmer and St. Cloud. Wilmer has yet to announce a starting pitcher, so we don't know. That'll be a surprise for Northwoods League Manager of the Year, Augie Rodriguez and company, as his St. Cloud Rocks send Logan Sallow, second in the Northwoods League in strikeouts. St. Cloud, the second best overall record in the Northwoods League behind only the Rafters, and also a first-place finish in the second half in the North. So they're hosting the first-round playoff game and would also host the second-round matchup if they were to move on. But St. Cloud, a team with excellent pitching, and Wilmer, a team with excellent hitting.
It is the proverbial offense versus pitching kind of matchup. Which one's going to prevail? Well, normally in playoff baseball, it tends to be the stronger pitching that will come out on top in playoff scenarios because of the one-game factor. One game, dominant in pitching. If you're able to set 27 guys down before they can put up a run, next thing you know, you're moving on.
Well, Wilmer also has been playing some quality baseball as they've really had to face some difficult circumstances. Their ballpark, affectionately known as the Beehive, was completely flooded due to a rainstorm before their series, the Waterloo Bucks, earlier this week. So they played a couple of games at what is essentially a community diamond, and their broadcaster, Dan Corcoran, was calling the game from center field on the warning track. How about that for a unique setting? So he was in the field of play, but technically speaking, they had a little rope around him that would have made it a home run, but they've been in a situation where they've had to overcome some stuff. They have some great players, Danny Pardo, Adam McGinnis, some guys who can really hit the ball well. They're not a power club necessarily, but they found a way to manufacture runs. St. Cloud, though, Logan Sallow on the mound to start the ball game. They have Colin Strahl, who you and I talked about off the air, coming out of the bullpen. He's top 5 in the league in ERA, and he hasn't made a start.
And you had mentioned, for comparison for Rafters fans, very Cameron Busby-like, if Busby were still here today with the team. Sidearm guy, just works out of the pen. He's worked, on average, 2 innings out of the pen in each of his appearances, and has just been dominant, being able to provide long, quality innings for the Rocks.
It'll be fun to watch how those 2 games play out as the Rafters do a little bit of scoreboard watching. Obviously, their matchup here at Witter Field of the utmost importance. They're focused on trying to move on. It is still a head-to-head one-and-done situation. On the other side of the South Division bracket, Battle Creek goes to Madison. You have Cody Puckett for the Bombers and Heath Renz for the Mallards. That's a great matchup in both respects. Both teams can hit the ball. Daniel Jippy and Zach Jarrett for each side, and both of those 2 arms can really throw the ball.
And I kind of like Battle Creek in this game, as they've been the hot team in the second half. They actually ended up finishing ahead of the Madison Mallards in the second half division standings, which is a testament considering how hot the Madison Mallards were at one point.
Well, the Rafters saw the Battle Creek Bombers 3 times this weekend. They went 1-2 against the Bombers, but a little bit of an asterisk maybe next to those games, as it was really more of a management question for the Rafters and how to keep their team in line to be the most prepared for their Monday playoff game. From day one, they knew who they would be playing, or rather where they would be playing, and that they would be playing. They're still waiting to find out until last night who they would be playing, but it didn't really matter. It was out of their control. They had the number 1 overall seed. At a certain point, it becomes a game of let's get into Monday as healthy as possible. That's what they've done. Reggie Johnson as well as Cal Giese combined to go the entire 8 innings yesterday. They saved the rest of the bullpen, so Blair Laxo and Garrett Schilling will be completely fresh. They can pitch both today and tomorrow if need be. So the Rafters are in a good spot in that context. The Battle Creek Bombers, though, very thin in their bullpen. The Rafters saw that this weekend. They were able to get to the bullpen on a couple of occasions, 14 runs against the Bombers in the second half of their doubleheader on Saturday. So Battle Creek is vulnerable, but they have Daniel Jipping, who is a Northwoods League postseason all-star. They have a couple of other guys who can hit the ball, and Cody Puckett on the mound gives them a great chance.
And I like out of the pen for Madison Troy Bacon, a guy that can throw upper 90s and really dominate out of the pen. He really showed his stuff at the Major League Dream Showcase where he impressed all of the scouts. And now that we've gone into the postseason, that's where those power arms really tend to shine.
Well, we're going to take a quick timeout as you're listening to Rafters Pregame on WFHR 1320 AM. We'll shift our discussion to the Rafters and the Chinooks, a inside look at what's going on down on the field when we come back after a quick message on WFHR 1320 AM, WFHR.com, and the TuneIn Radio app. Welcome back to Rafters Pregame. Cooper Perkins and Sam Jellinek from Witter Field up in the press box as we perch ourselves over the goings-on down on the field. Rafters and Chinooks, a first-round Northwoods League playoff series, the first playoff game in Rafters history. It is a fantastic atmosphere for baseball. The Lakeshore Chinooks just found out last night they would be in the playoffs. It went down to the very last game of the season, and they're hurting in the roster department.
Yeah, right now for the Chinooks, only 15 guys on the roster. Currently 6 pitchers, only 5 of which are available, 3 catchers, 3 infielders, and 3 outfielders. To put that into a little bit of perspective, they currently have 4 coaches on their roster. Just about a quarter of their roster is now coaches.
And what you pointed out to me when we were off the air before coming on is that they really have no substitutions. They're in a situation where they already have a pitcher in the form of Nick Winter, who has been shifted to a field player's contract. He will likely start in the outfield, and then 3 catchers with one of them likely playing the infield and one of them DHing. There's no option off the bench. Those are 9 guys that will have to play all the way through. At the best, perhaps they could pinch hit with one of their pitchers. But right now, they don't have any options. They have 9 guys that they have to run with. And for the Lakeshore Chinooks, while they've been playing playoff baseball, this certainly doesn't make things easier.
And going off like what you said with how they have an extremely thin bench, extremely thin bullpen right now. Only 4 guys are able to come out of the bullpen, so should starter Cole Gannett get into any kind of trouble, they really have no arms to turn to in the bullpen, and if they somehow miraculously make it through today, who knows what they'll do tomorrow.
Well, and this is already a lineup that's been weak all season long. Dead last in the Northwoods League in runs scored at just 307 in 72 games, less than 4.5. They face Chris Cooper, the best single-season ERA for a Rafters pitcher in franchise history of anyone qualified for the title. He finishes 4th in the league in regular season ERA at 2.03. He's also dominated right-hand hitting. So on the other side, the Lakeshore Chinooks are heavily right-handed. They now face this Chris Cooper, who is very good against right-handed hitters. Has a 201 opponent batting average. This has to be a matchup that the Rafters are comfortable with.
It's a matchup the Rafters absolutely love. For right now, for the Chinooks, like you said, mostly right-handed hitters, and to go along with that, a lot of their guys that they have brought back haven't played baseball in a little bit. They were on temporary contracts and were either cut or released, and were brought back now to fill out gaps in the roster for a very now depleted roster.
It's really quite a jump to go from not playing into suddenly facing an arm like Chris Cooper, who was both a mid-season All-Star and recently announced as a postseason All-Star here in the Northwoods League. So he's gotten recognition, he's earned it by and large, and really been dominant for the most part. On the other side, he is faced by a name that you might not be expecting, as with Lakeshore, the home of Marshall Kozowski, who was, of course, the Northwoods League Pitcher of the Year. It will be Cole Gannett who gets the start. Kozowski has departed. He is no longer on this active roster. It is Cole Gannett, the right-hander, as he will face the Rafters for the second time, but the first time in a starting capacity. They saw him last week in Lakeshore in the game that started the 9-game winning streak. A 5-4 victory. Gannett took the loss as he threw just an inning and gave up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned. A big 2-run home run to Dustin Woodcock. This will be the first extended exposure that the Rafters get, though, against Cole Gannett.
Yeah, so for Gannett so far this year, currently a 3.68 ERA. He's made 9 starts and 51 in the 3rd innings. We'll see how he fares against this Rafters lineup, considering he did pitch against them last week and had a little bit of trouble. Dustin Woodcock won't be in the lineup, unfortunately, but the rest of the Rafters offense is extremely formidable, as we've seen all year long.
I think one note also to look at with this Lakeshore depletion and the fact that they're lacking both in the infield, the outfield, and with respect to their arms, is how their defense will fare. There has to be some level of sacrifice when you're playing a pitcher in the outfield like Nick Winter or playing a catcher on the infield. We don't know which of the 3 it will be, but there will be one of them. Lakeshore's in a spot where their defense could suffer. It already cost them a game against the Rafters back last week in the 5-4 victory for Wisconsin Rapids. It could be something that rears its head again.
And we'll see how the Rafters want to attack that, be it laying down a few more bunts, stealing a few more bases. We know the Rafters love to be aggressive on the base paths. Now would be a perfect time to try that out. If you want to lay down a few more bunts, you don't know how the infield's going to react, especially with having one catcher predictably on the infield, how quick this infield will be able to play for the Chinooks.
Well, Sam, I couldn't agree more. We'll take one more timeout, and then we'll come back in just a moment with first pitch as you're listening to Rafters Pregame on WFHR 1320 AM, the first postseason baseball game in Wisconsin Rapids Rafters history. When we come back, the first postseason baseball game at Witter Field in 32 years. So stay tuned for more Rafters baseball on WFHR 1320 AM, WFHR.com, and the TuneIn Radio app.